Howdy, howdy, y'all. Welcome back to Some Antics. Today, I am joined by Brittney. Brittney, how's it going?
It is going fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing so well. I'm super thrilled to have you on. Super thrilled to be talking about SvelteKit. We were actually just talking before stream that a few people, some of whom are already in the chat, have been mentioning that like I need to dive into Svelte, and I just have not had
Yes.
the chance. So I'm super excited to I guess get a grand tour of that.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on. I'm super excited to talk about it too.
Absolutely. But before we dive into Svelte and SvelteKit and component libraries and all that stuff, let's talk about you for a bit. For folks who haven't seen you around yet, who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Brittney Postma. I have a lot of jobs. I co host the Perfect.dev podcast. I create content on Coding Cat Dev. I also founded the Svelte Sirens, which is a Svelte society to help support the women and non binary people inside the Svelte community. We do talks and live streams where we show how to do different things with Svelte on that. But the reason that I'm here today probably is because I'm a software engineer at Granger and I am on the team where we are building out our internal component library and the design system behind the scenes for our teams at Granger.
Gotcha. So how did you get into this world of like Svelte and component libraries? Like, what was that story?
Yeah, sure. So I have a background in graphic design, and I did that a while ago. I took a couple years in college. I never finished. I was basically broke, mid 20s, needed money. So I started working in restaurants, got out of design work completely, and got into banking, did that for a minute, and then had kids. Got married, had kids. So while I had kids, they were, I think, three, two, and then a baby. While they were playing in the playroom, I'm like, I need something to do. So I just started kind of looking up these fun things that I could learn and do. And I found Free Code Camp. And once I found Free Code Camp and I started doing the responsive web design tutorials in there, I was kind of hooked because I'm like, this brought my graphic design background into where I could create things and make it interactive. And I was just obsessed with it from that point on. And I think about a little less than a year into my journey, I listened to Syntax FM and found Svelte through Scott Tolinsky and switched everything that I'd already learned in React to Sapper, and I never looked back. It was full Svelte from then on out.
Okay, so why that migration? Like, what's compelling to you about Svelte?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the developer experience for me is a huge draw. So going into React, I probably jumped into React too soon to the point to where I didn't know what was React and what was JavaScript. I'm like, what is this component? Did mount this was back in class days where it was just very confusing for me to understand what was happening. When I switched to Svelte, it was more like having the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript structure of just a vanilla site with just kind of a little bit of sugar syntax that just made it click more for me. So I took myself out. I feel like when I'm writing React, I'm writing more like JavaScript. You are writing JavaScript. So in Svelte, I felt like I was actually writing the syntax for the things that you're in scope of.
Interesting. That actually corresponds a lot with how I feel about 11D, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
I think a different beast, right? Because 11D is not really made for like building like heavily interactive things. But I like 11D because I feel a lot closer to the markup. And it seems like you've got a kind of similar experience with Svelte, just more interactive and dynamic in client side real time changes.
Yeah, I feel like it provides a lot for you out of the box too, since it's a compiler. Like you have all access to all of this stuff, but then if you don't use it, it just goes away, which is also nice.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, so what are we going to be doing today?
Yeah, so today we're going to be building out some components for a component library.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're going to see if we can get some things working, see if we can check out how SvelteKit works, how Svelte works, do some animations. We'll see what we can get up and running. So, do you want to go ahead and get over to
Yeah.
kit.svelte.dev and we'll see how we can get this installed?
Yes, let me actually. Folks cannot see my screen right now; they've just seen our faces. So,
Oh, yeah.
there we go. Now folks can see our screen. I put a few links in the chat, but y'all please go follow Brittney on Twitter. Oh, actually, we've already got a great question to start off. This is from Aphic, who wants to know: I would like to learn Svelte. Should I learn Svelte or should I jump directly into SvelteKit?
That is a great question. So I'm going to say the traditional, it depends, but Svelte Kit is kind of becoming, once it's out of beta, I think it's going to be the path forward for everyone to learn Svelte, regardless of what you want to do, because it provides all the different rendering options that you're going to get. If you're just learning Svelte and using Svelte, you're just going to get client side rendering. So you have to add something else to it to get like before it was Sapper, where we would have server side rendering or static generation. But SvelteKit provides all of that for you, and it's kind of a nice little boxed package. So I would suggest just learning SvelteKit, just using SvelteKit to learn Svelte.
Good deal. And that's the journey I'm about to take. I again have not learned Svelte, so this is how I'm jumping in is through SvelteKit with you. So thank you for answering that. Yeah, so I'm over at kit.svelte.dev. Where should I go now?
Awesome. So if we scroll down just a little bit, you'll actually see the script that we need there, npm init svelte at next. And then the my app part is just going to be whatever we want to call our
All
application. So if
right.
you want to get your terminal open and however we get set up here.
You got it. Just gonna bring these two things side by side. Okay. npm init svelte at next. And let's call this svelte kit component library. It's a bit of a long
Yeah.
name, but it's a good one.
Yeah.
Very descriptive.
Very descriptive. Exactly. That's what we need. So it should walk you through some of the steps of getting started. So it asks you if you want a demo app or if you want a skeleton project. We're going to do the skeleton project just so we have a baseline, nothing in it to cloud our
Okay.
and do not want to use TypeScript.
Hey, Travis, thank you for subscribing. Okay, so no TypeScript today. Just an extra complication for now.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially for me. You can use ESLint and it's going to ask you about Prettier too. It's up to you, but I do use both of them.
I think, let's just say, for the purposes of learning,
Just
like,
keep it
let's just
clean.
remove things that could be intrusive in this case.
Yeah,
I think
that's
in a
great.
real world project, I would turn both of those on, but just for demo purposes, let's not deal with that.
Absolutely. So it kind of gives you some next steps there, tells you how to change directory
Yes.
into it, npm install, and then how you could add git, and then how you can open the server.
All right. And I will actually go ahead and copy that because that looks good. And now we wait for npm to do its thing.
Yeah. Yeah, while npm is doing that, so I wanted to say a design system is a complete collection of resources. It's not just your component library, but a component library is a piece of that design system. So today we're just going to go through like building out a few components for a library that would be a part of a design system. A design system would also include things like your style guidelines and your physical designs and documentation. I don't know if we'll get to documentation today. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah, because you want the guidelines of like, yes, this is the component you can pull in, but especially doing the like accessibility type work that I end up doing, like oftentimes the component is a very helpful part to make sure people have a strong foundation, but then you still have to hold the component correctly. Like you can't hold it the wrong way, so there's got to be like extra guidance there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pop open code as well. And let's go ahead and just run that npm run dev open as well.
Awesome.
And my browser over on my other monitor.
Yes, that is
open.
always what happens.
That's the streamer way. But
Oh.
it did say localhost 3000, so there we go. Cool. I'm gonna just kind of bring this off to the side, and we can bring it back in at some point. So I noticed that we've got, this looks like just a simple H1 and paragraph. And then,
Exactly. Yeah, just like a basic starter. So if you want to pull up the code there in the SRC folder, in the routes folder is where you're going to see your index.svelte file, and that matches to that home route. That is what you're seeing there on your screen. So let's start adding some stuff to this. I guess if you want, we can just delete all of that out of there
Okay.
because we don't need any of that. And I thought instead of us doing, I love CSS custom properties. So instead of us doing this crazy list of CSS variables and taking all this time, that we could use open props to
Oh, okay.
pull in. So Adam Argyle has this open props library, and I did not mention it to you before. Sorry, open-props.style, I think is the thing. But we're going to use that in our app to hopefully use the CSS custom properties. And you could actually grab that import right there, and we'll throw that in something in just a minute.
Okay.
So back over in the code on your index page, I mean, you could just save that index page with nothing on it for right now.
Okay.
And then in the file explorer, we want to create a new file. So in the routes directory, create a new file, underscore layout.svelte.
Is this a magic name? Like the fact that we've named it something means something here?
Exactly. Yes. So this is a magic route in SvelteKit. This will wrap your entire application in a layout file. So it allows you to create a layout that could also be scoped. If you wanted to reset it and you're in a folder, you can do a layout reset file that will override that. So here is another magic thing about Svelte that we need. We need if you're thinking about a layout file, you want to probably have like a header and a footer maybe, but for now, let's just do a main tag. So a main tag in there, and then what you need in SvelteKit to put your children in their place is a slot. So,
all right.
I know, it was a horrible joke.
Goodness. Okay. Or is it self-closing?
It is self-closing if you would like, unless you need it to, yeah, there you go. So the slot there, and then we can open up just a normal CSS style tag wherever you would like on top or below. If we had, you have to do it outside of the markup. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Okay. Oh,
And
yeah, because
now-
Svelte, from what little I know about Svelte, right? Like, it separates these things by design, right? Like,
Exactly.
okay.
And you can order those with prettier. So, like mine, usually my styles are on the bottom, but you
Okay.
can set the order with prettier however you want. But yours may auto format it somehow. So we have the main tag, we have the slot, which is basically just telling us Svelte where to put the rest of the children. So any other route is going to be where that slot is. So right now our routes are just sitting inside main. Right here, we want to import the thing you just copied. Yes. So, okay, we have open props now imported into our styles, and then we could probably just go ahead and create some. Let's get something on the screen so we can see. So in the index file, let's do an H1, and we'll say component library or or something.
Okay. Now, should I go back to the browser, or are we adding more?
We can add some styles to it and see if that works. That's what I was gonna suggest doing.
Sounds good.
I get open props up over here so I can see what we
yeah.
need. So in that code block, if you want to like open a style tag again, we could like change the H1. And I can show you another really cool thing about SvelteKit. So we can open another style block
inside index.svelte. Like in
yes, in that file. Yep. And do an H1. And then let's do font size. And then you're going to use var -- font -size let's use fluid 3, fluid FLUID -3.
Okay. And this is coming from open props. So this is a set
Well,
of.
we're going to hope that's coming from open props. So I wanted to see if it was going to work. So we need to
Okay,
see the browser and see if that worked for us.
let me save this and come back here. It looks like that's pretty
It looks
massive.
like it is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
If I inspect the styles, that's going to pop up over here. Um, we can see that we've got var font size fluid 3.
And you can actually see right there on your H1 that the class has been hashed. So that's the other cool thing about SvelteKit is each component has their own scoped classes. So we just use the H1 selector, but that H1 is not
Oh,
going to bleed out of that component. It's going to be only in that component that those styles are going to be applied.
got it. So if I had like an H1 here, and you shouldn't have multiple H1s on a page, this is a sin, and I will
But
type that out.
just a test.
This is a sin. Yeah,
There we
despite
go.
despite the fact that like I had put just H1 in my styles, those styles applied very specifically to this H1 and not to all H1s. So that's very cool.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have open props working. The other thing that we would probably want to do is to create some sort of global style. So you can do global styles in this style tag, but it's much easier to do it in a style like a CSS file.
Okay.
Because if you do it in the style tag, you have to explicitly tell Svelte that you want it to go global because it does that scope styling. So we could create a new styles folder somewhere in our file explorer there.
Okay, where do you like to put this typically?
So the convention in Svelte is to have a lib folder. So SRC, we need to create a new folder called lib.
Like inside SRC. Oh.
Inside SRC, yep. lib lib folder. And then inside of that, we could just create a styles.css file. Yes, Zach, that is actually exactly right. That colon global, and then inside of those parentheses is where you would put whatever you wanted to style globally. But that's how you would do it if you were doing it in the style tag. But in here, we can style everything that we want to and then import it in, and it will just be global. So let's use the body tag and do font family. And I think we'll use Nodo Sans.
Ooh, I wonder if I have Nodo Sans.
Open Props provides it.
Oh, okay.
So I want to see, did it change over in the browser for you?
Not yet. We haven't done anything with the style sheet yet, I think. We haven't like.
Oh yeah, that's right. So okay, in layout.svelte, let's import that and make sure that's working.
Okay.
So we need a script tag.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if it would work like that. You could try to do that. Try that real quick and see if that works. I don't think you're going to be able to use. You're going to have to do some absolute pathing.
Yeah,
so
let's
use the alias.
Let's not then. So okay, where in here do you typically put your script tag? Like, is it?
I put mine at the top most of the time. Like it's where the logic for the things usually lives. And we'll import. And so SvelteKit provides out of the box for you some default aliases. And aliases are things where you can reference a path without having to go to it absolutely. So by default, it's a $. I usually change mine to ats, but we won't go through all the config for that today. So the $lib and /styles.svelte or what styles.css. Sorry.
Okay. And now there we go.
Is that working?
It's working.
Yay! Okay, perfect. So that's where we would put all of our global styles if we were going to go through all that. I just wanted to see if we could get the fonts in there. So we have Nodo Sans installed globally in our styles.css file. We have open props imported in a style tag. And then on our index file, we're just showing an H1. Let's start building out some components. So if you were building out a component library, what are some things you might want to create?
Always buttons.
Always buttons.
Always buttons. Everything is a fancy button.
All right, so we will do a button first. I want to create something that will kind of go together, but
Okay.
we do have a button in here. So in that lib folder, let's create a components directory.
You got it.
And then we'll create a new file and you can name it button.svelte. You can do whatever convention you want with capitalization. Yep, perfect. And so in here, I want to start out just do a normal button.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
And this is what I love about Svelte is that it's just HTML. And so inside of the button, we're going to do a slot because that's where we want to put our children. And that's it, really.
Okay.
I mean, like
Yeah.
that is a button component, but we probably want our button component to have some props, right?
Yeah.
So what is a button component if it can't do anything? So in a script tag, we will give it some properties that our button could have.
Sounds good. So that would be like it would have like an on click, right? Um
So
and
yes, it would have an on click. You don't have to do that up in the script tag though. I will show you that in just a minute.
okay.
So some properties that we might want to give a button component are like a variant maybe. So we could do a variant, we could give it a type, we could give it, what are some other things that we would put on a button?
Disabled is
Yeah,
another one.
so we could do those props. So we would just declare these like you're in JavaScript. So let variant equal to default.
Okay.
Okay, and then let disabled equal to false. Let's just go with those for right now.
Sure.
And then we need to export these. So this is the concept of props in Svelte. If they are just let declared variables, they are internal to the component, but to access them from the outside world, you need to export them, which kind of follows that module syntax. So we need export, and then you can open some curly braces. And you can also do this in front of the let, but this is how I like to do it when you have multiple properties. Yep. So we have that. And then on our button in the markup, we actually need to add these things. So the on click is going to go here, but in Svelte, it's on colon click.
Okay.
Okay, and then we do an open curly bracket for each of those properties.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Like this, and then variant,
Yes.
and then
Yep.
disabled.
Yes.
So wait, so is this just gonna say like variant equals default? Like it's just gonna put like a variant attribute on here, or do we need to do something fancier to like say it's a class or a data attribute or something?
We would need to specify if we wanted it to be a class attribute. What that's going to do is give it a property, a variant property. So we could specify in, if we're using this component, we would basically pass variant equal to primary or variant equal to, so we would need to pass something else to it. But if we wanted it to be a class, we would say like class is equal to variant.
Got it. Because yeah, I'm struggling to figure out like when this turns into markup, like what happens to variant here? Like disabled seems fairly intuitive to me. Like the disabled attribute would be set to the value of disabled here, but this would be like variant equals default is what that would do, right?
Yeah, and so you would need some styles that would go with that default button. So I didn't think about how to do this. We shouldn't have started with this component.
Oh no! Oh no!
That's okay. So yeah, I'm completely lost right now. So
do we want to start with a different component? Would that be a better place to start, perhaps?
So I think if you do the class, you can, trying to remember how that goes. Put in front of variant, put class colon.
Like this? Or
yeah, and take the curly braces off. That's how we do it.
Okay.
And then in a style tag at the bottom, that put me on the spot because I was like, I was not
Oh,
prepared for that.
I'm sorry.
I think this is right. So if you do dot default now, like you're styling the default class, oh, it's
Yeah.
going to yell at you because you don't have.
Uh,
Oh, because you don't have anything inside of it right now. So let's
yeah.
just do background color, and let's use var teal -9. Is it still yelling at unused CSS property? Okay, so instead of variant, let's just call it default.
Like, oh, I'm sorry. Here?
Default there, and then put equal to variant
Equal.
in curly braces.
Okay. Well, that seems to have solved this error. Okay.
Okay, let's go over to index.svelte and see if we can import our button and see if we can use it.
Okay, so I first have to open up a script tag, I'm guessing, to import my...
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So import button from, and we'll do $lib components button.svelte. And you do have to put the .svelte on it.
Okay. And then here, let's do... It's probably capital B button in this case, and then...
Yes, it is. And then you can put some text in there. Since we put that slot in there, it's going to... Yep.
All right. Let's see.
Let's see if that worked.
Hey, okay. Cool.
We got it?
We got a teal button.
It's not a very pretty button, but
sure.
The button... Okay, let's move on from button for a minute before I freak
out. Yeah, hey, no worries. Okay. Sorry for putting you on the spot like that.
Oh, absolutely not. A button should have been like the first thing that came to my mind, but I was creating this like thing in my head that I wanted to go through.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's create a card component. Is something that I think like has like pieces in it that people like to do. So let's do card.svelte. Yep. And then in here, we're going to group a couple of things. We're going to group so we could just do a div because it doesn't really have any semantic meaning, doesn't need anything on it. And inside of this div, we're actually going to create 2 slots, but we're going to learn something else here. So we're going to create a slot with a name, a named slot.
Okay.
So the first slot is going to have name equal to title. And the second slot is going to have name equal to content.
All right.
This allows you to put separate children in their place. So now we're going to have a space for title. And what this allows us to do is extract the markup. So we're not specifying if it's an H2, an H3, a paragraph, whatever it is inside the child. The child doesn't need to know about it, or inside the component doesn't need to know about it. But here we can take it out of context and we could put whatever markup we need around that slot.
Okay.
So we have the slot, and then that's it for the card component. That's all it really needs right now.
Sounds
Next,
good.
I want to create a checkbox component.
Nope, not component. .svelte. There we go.
All right, so in the checkbox component, we're going to wrap a label around it too. That was fine, but yep, a label. And then we're going to do input type checkbox. And after the label, we'll just do the slot. Exactly. You got the hang of this.
All right.
So we need some properties on the checkbox though.
Yes.
So we're going to create that script tag. And in the script tag, we want to have an ID, probably.
Okay, so let ID.
And so in Svelte, you can do null if you want something to be optional, but we probably don't want ID to be optional. So I want there to be kind of some default there. So I would just probably use checkbox, a string of checkbox as a default, so that there is an ID on it. And then we need a checked variable, which is a Boolean, and we're just going to set that to false by default.
Sounds good.
And then we need to export those so that they're available outside.
Sounds good. And then,
Okay. And then we need to add those onto our input. So we need, yep, checked, and we probably want an aria checked is equal to checked
I
also.
I think if you're using the native checkbox, just using the checked attribute
Will
is
that work?
sufficient.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we also need two other things. So we need an on change. So space on colon change.
Ooh, hello. My emoji keyboard was kicking in there. Uh, all right, let
And
me
we
set that
need
on rock.
one more piece of spelt magic here. We need a bind colon checked.
Bind.
And what this is going to do is bind the value of checked. And you don't need the equals print quotes. Yep, just that. And so it's binding it to the value of checked, which is Boolean, which is going to flip. And then we'll also bind it in another component in just a minute. So this is our checkbox component.
It's giving me a little red thing that says attributes need to be unique. Do I just need to nuke the checked?
Oh
here?
yeah, check doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. See, sometimes the linting is very nice.
Yeah, like you mentioned the dev tooling, and like I see it. Very cool. So this says we've got an input with type checkbox that's going to use the ID from the script, which is possibly more or less a prompt that could be passed down from the consumer.
Exactly.
It's going to have a change behavior, and it's got a value of, like, it's got an attribute of checked, which is set to this checked, but the bind means that anytime this attribute changes, it changes in our script as well.
Yes, so it's going to bind that value of checked. So if it's false, it's going to bind the value. And then wherever we use the component, we're going to bind the variable we want to that false true flip. So we're going to create something that we can use the card component and the checkbox component together, which is a to-do list. Like,
okay,
obvious, like, first thing for, I mean, it's not really a component library thing, but let's create a to-do.svelte component just so we can see how we use these components together.
You got it.
Okay, so to-dos.svelte, we've got to import our card and our checkbox.
Import card from, look at that, components.
Or it's in the same file, so it might be easier for you to just do like that. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I like that a lot better. Yep. All
right. So for right now, we'll leave the script tag alone and go down to the markup. So we need to start using that card component. We created the card component with a slot. So we already have an H1 on our page. So let's do it with an H2. So we need to open the card like a component. Yep. And then an H2, and give the H2 an attribute of name, or I'm sorry, of slot equal to title. So we're telling it to use the slot title. And then we can do a done or a to-do column. I'm sorry, done. Yeah. I was looking at the, so to do, and then do a content block.
Okay, so what does that look like again?
What would we do for a list of to-dos? I mean, we're going to need a UL. And then our UL is actually going to be the slot equal to content. And then we're going to loop over some to-dos. Got it. So cool. Yeah. So do you want to create the to-dos first, or do you want to do the block first? Let's create the to-dos, I think. Okay, let's just create some initial to-dos up in that script block. Let's go and just say let to-dos equals, and we're going to do an array. And inside of the array, let's do some objects so we can give them some values. So like an is done, or, and we'll set them to false, and then some text or name, or you name it however you want. Do the stream.
greet the chat. Gotta do that blatant pandering. How's the
Yes.
chat doing? How's everyone feeling today? Um, and then continue to do the stream. There we go.
Okay, awesome. So we have some initial to-dos here. Awesome. So tired today. Oh no. Okay, so now we are going to go back down into our markup, and where that UL is, inside of the UL, we're going to do what's called an each block. And this is some templating sugar syntax that Svelte gives us.
Okay.
So inside of curly brackets, we'll do pound or hashtag. Depends on what generation you're from.
Ooh.
Each as, yeah, so each to-dos.
Each to-dos as to do? Like I give
Exactly.
it. Okay.
That was pretty intuitive, right?
Okay.
So
all right.
each to do's as to do, and then we're going to, inside of here, use an li to get our list item.
Then.
And we can just do to do dot text in curly braces.
All right.
Is that showing up?
Let's. Oh, I don't think we've actually used our.
Oh, we haven't imported it. Okay, so in index.svelte, let's import the to dos.
And then we're just gonna do this, and then I don't think I need to do anything in here, so it can be like self-closing.
It can be self-closing, yes.
Okay. Hey.
Sweet. Okay, so we have each list item going through there. Okay, so let's go back over to to-dos and finish this out. So we are going to create another column. So underneath the card, do another card. You can copy that whole block if you want.
All right. Oh, and this is for the done ones, right?
And we're going to do a done column. So do done instead of to-dos there. Yep. And then what we need to do to get these correct is to filter that list. So in that first each block, to-dos, we're going to change that to to-dos.filter.
Okay, and that's up here. You said like this one up here?
In the top one, yeah. Okay. We're going to filter both of them, but we're just going to do the opposite in the other one. So filter to do, and then an arrow function.
And then it's going to be like not to do is done.
Exactly. Is done.
Then here.
Exactly.
This is basically just letting me use JavaScript in HTML. Love it.
It is, exactly. And that's one of the nice little things about the Svelte syntax that lets you kind of just do these things. Okay, so we have the filtered blocks and we have that. We need to actually use our checkbox now. So we imported the checkbox, correct?
Yes, we have it up top.
Okay, so in that list item, we can actually wrap to-do.text in the checkbox.
Okay, I'm gonna break these down to new lines.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Checkbox. Bring you up, and then is there anything else we need to do to make this sufficient?
Yeah, so on checkbox, we need to bind checked. So we're passing these properties again to do dot is done. So bind colon checked equal, and then curly braces to do dot is done.
Okay.
And then we'll give it an ID of to do dot ID.
We need to add that.
But we don't have an ID. So what we can do is you can do a comma after to do in the each block.
Comma after. Oh. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Not there. I'm sorry. That's inside the function in the last to do there where you're calling. Yeah. And then an index, and then you could use the index as the ID there.
Very cool. I feel like if this were a React tutorial, like someone would be yelling at me like, don't do this. Don't make the like index.
I believe you could actually even call it ID. I think Svelte just automatically creates it as an index, even if it's not named an index.
Oh, okay. So wait, like I can just do. Sorry. So I could say
instead of index up top, like you could say ID, and then just use it as an ID.
Okay, like this?
Um, you had index there before,
Oh,
so
I see.
you still have to have ID there, like comma ID.
Oh, okay. Here. So
Yeah.
this is what you're saying, I think.
Yes, that is. I'm so sorry. Sometimes
Oh,
it's
you're
so
good.
hard, and you have to put that in curly braces though, because it's
Oh,
JavaScript.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. We're good. I think we got there. Yeah,
I think we got there.
talking through code syntax is a challenge. There's an added challenge, which is transcribing code syntax in closed
Exactly.
captions. I have not figured that out yet. Um,
Oh, I bet that's difficult. So grab that entire checkbox thing and copy it, and we'll kind of paste it down below and just change
yeah,
it for our other each block. Might be easier.
yeah. And then here, gotta do ID. Cool.
Okay, and so we just need, okay, these are all still called to do. That's probably fine. I renamed all of these to done. I don't know if that's more intuitive for you.
Okay, so
Or,
here and here and here, I think.
yeah, awesome. Okay, yep. So done. And then what else? What do we have on our screen?
Let's find out. So there's currently nothing's done, but when I do this, hey, okay,
So
very
it is
cool.
functioning. Awesome. Okay. So let's see. I don't think we need to do anything else in the to do component for now, unless we wanted to style it or make it like prettier or anything. But what we can do now is talk about animations for a second,
Okay,
because this is one of the things that comes out of the box with SvelteKit that a lot of frameworks don't provide that I love. So in this to do component, we're going to import at the top in the script tag, flip from Svelte Animate. So it's in curly braces.
okay, got it. Named import from
Yeah.
then svelte.
Svelte forward slash animate. That is
Got
a
it.
forward slash, I think. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, seems to have picked that
There
up.
we go. Okay. So in the li element is what we want to use this on. We're going to say animate colon flip. And it's going to give you some warnings, but we're going to copy that and we're going to paste it on the other li, and then we'll talk about the warning.
All right. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Big ol' nasty error.
Big ol' nasty error.
An element that uses the animate directive must be the immediate child of a keyed each block.
So that means that our each block actually needs to be keyed with a specific ID so that Svelte knows what you are wanting to flip.
Mm,
So instead of the ID that we just spent all that time trying to figure out how to do, we're going to erase the comma and the ID. And in parentheses,
like this?
yes, we're going to put an ID, and I think we're going to have to add it to our to-dos.
Okay.
So each to-do is actually going to have an explicit ID for this to work, because Svelte needs to know and not just be an index.
Gotcha. Okay.
So now we're going to use to-do.id there.
All right.
And you can copy that parentheses block and then do it down on the other one and say done. .id. There we go.
Then
and now
it is not thrilled about the
because
ID.
we are just using so we're in an each block, so we need to say to do.id because it's an object.
Got it.
Before we were actually explicitly calling it ID,
Mm-hmm.
and we changed that, so now it's mad.
Is that it?
ID is equal.
Equal. That would make sense. That is how HTML works.
And then that one's just going to be done.id.
Yes.
Maybe we shouldn't have renamed that. I messed that up.
Okay.
So now we should see like a little bit of an animation.
Yeah, and it
may not be great on stream, but it's kind of animating there. But we're gonna give it another level of like awesome animation. So we're gonna import another thing into the to-do file.
Okay.
At the very top, we're going to import, open up some curly braces, crossfade, CROSSFADE, and fade from Svelte / transition.
All right.
And then we actually need to use this because this crossfade is a function. So we need to create a new function below checkbox there somewhere, a const, and we're going to pull out in array brackets, send and receive. So we're essentially telling it what is going where. So you're giving it some points. And then we use crossfade, and it's a function with an object. And then inside of that, we're going to say fallback, colon, fade. And we're going to use the fade transition from Svelte as a fallback if crossfade doesn't work. So down in our markup in the li next to animate flip, we're going to do a space and say in colon receive.
Receive. Yes, this makes sense. Okay.
Receive, and we're going to say equal to, and you need 2 sets of curly braces because we're doing an object inside of the JavaScript, and it's key colon, and that one's going to be to-do.id. So we're giving it the ID and the key, and then we need to do an out colon send.
Wait, like out here as an attribute. Out send.
Yep. And you need to do the same thing. So key to-do.id, and then we'll copy that and we'll put that down on the other one.
Makes sense. There we go. This needs an equals. And now come down here. I'm just gonna paste this in. This needs to be done on both of these.
Done. And let's see what that animation looks like.
All right. Oh, it actually like flies there.
It does. It like actually tracks the movement of it.
That's awesome. So cool how easy that is to do. Like animation's such a like pain point, I think, of web dev.
In a lot of frameworks. Yeah. And Svelte just kind of gives it to you out of the box and makes it really easy. Like the sugar syntax in Svelte is really what drew me to it, because I love writing in that near traditional markup, but having those easy things that you don't have to create all this boilerplate code for. There's just like such a few things that you really have to figure out.
Yeah, and this comes back to Svelte's origins, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Rich Harris created for like basically like for the New York Times, where he was creating like interactive articles and dynamic things. Like it's the like animation is absolutely a part of like the journalistic storytelling process of that. And
it is exactly.
So it's very cool to see like how his needs translated into primitives that are just baked into the language as easily as that.
Yeah. And I do want to try one more thing. So on that button, I want to see if we can pass a style prop to it. We're going to see if this works. Okay. So in index.svelte, actually, on the button component, do a space and do dash dash. I don't think you even need to do the style tag.
Oh.
What did we call, is it background color?
Yes.
So do
we need, are we?
But wait, what are we using? We don't have a thing set up for that. So can we add a root element there in the style tag and create a new variable?
Yes, we sure can.
So root, and then we're going to create a variable dash dash, just,
background color. Yeah.
Yep, and then use that there.
Okay. And yeah, probably I'm just gonna use the teal as a default there, and then this is
that's a great idea.
Var background color. Okay. And then
Okay, now back in index.svelte, we can pass background color equal to,
equal
when is
to, and let
this?
me give it a,
Different color.
there we go. I happen to have a keyboard shortcut for my purple. Uh,
That is awesome. I need to do that. And it worked.
it
You can
worked.
actually do a color white on there or something so it's accessible,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Accessibility. What's that? Yeah. Uh, color white.
We got Selma in the chat.
Salma, hello. Welcome to the chat. Um,
We got some svelty goodness going on.
yes.
Fun transitions.
Yeah. We made checkboxes fly around, which is incredibly cool. Like the fact is, if I were to do this in React, I would have had to install like 3 different libraries to make this work.
And you did 0 libraries.
Yeah.
0.
Well, yeah, because this is all like baked into Svelte itself,
Yeah.
which is awesome. Selma said, I tried to use Svelte with TypeScript back in summer 2020 and didn't have a good time. I think things have improved since then. We opted to not use TypeScript for this stream because that just seemed like another obstacle to learning today.
And TypeScript is always an obstacle to learning for me in general. So you don't want to see me mess with TypeScript at all, but it is much
Mhm.
more baked into the program now. Svelte
Yeah.
is written in TypeScript, and they have moved from being to where TypeScript was kind of second nature to it being integrated into the platform. So I think you would have more of a fun time with it in SvelteKit now. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And if you
Lindsay.
don't, jump in the Svelte Discord because they will help you.
Yeah, and Lindsay seems to be vouching for better Svelte TypeScript support. So, um, yeah, and like this is not at all a diss on TypeScript. I think it's just that like I don't know, especially for like 1 hour of like learning about a thing. Like the last thing you want is to be finagling with like an extra layer of syntax. Um, Again, if this were like a production project, like totally on board with TypeScript. Just not
Exactly.
not for
And
streams.
I do get the value of TypeScript in the production setting, and like it helps the consumers of your component library to see what they need to use on it. I
Hmm.
love the value that it adds there. It's just, I am still learning.
Yeah.
I'm not great with it.
Hmm. Yeah. So we're getting near to the end. Was there anything else you wanted to show off? Anything you wanted to add to our little component library here?
No, I just wanted to see if the style props would work, and we were able to pass that in, which is kind of cool. We showed class, where we did that cast class colon default on the button. We showed that you can do like dynamic classes there.
Yeah.
Um, we showed animations. We showed how to pass props.
I
I think we got through.
the fact that you could just straight up put the let's see, I'll go back to the index. The fact that you can just straight up put the CSS custom properties like on the element itself, that's just incredibly cool. Like that React makes working with custom properties a pain point, I think.
Mhm.
And so it's neat to see that, you know, this makes using that API even easier than it is for vanilla HTML, which is a
Yeah.
huge plus.
And I think that's the power of Svelte too, is that it makes vanilla, it feels like vanilla HTML, but then you have this power with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there, and it's like right at your fingertips. You don't have to go and figure a ton of boilerplate out, which I love. So
Absolutely. All right, so this has been a very brief introduction to the Svelte world. Where might someone go if they were looking to learn more?
okay, so they have a fantastic tutorial on svelte.dev, which is probably one of the best on the web, in my opinion, that walks you through step by step the Svelte syntax. And they have a Svelte REPL. So that right on the top bar there, you've got the tutorial, and then
Okay.
you've got the REPL also. And the tutorial will walk you through in the REPL, like each syntax thing, which
Hmm.
I think is just a great place for everyone to go and get started. I'm working on an intro to Svelte course that will hopefully be coming out soon, but it's not out right now. But the REPL is a place that you can play around with code and see what works and what doesn't. Yeah.
Good deal. And so if people are interested in learning more about that course, I'm guessing they can follow you on Twitter for all of those updates. Um,
Absolutely.
and then there's one other place that I think we should shout out, like learning for Svelte, which is Svelte Sirens. Can you talk about like what that is and stuff like that? What y'all are
Absolutely. My
doing?
marketing is terrible, apparently. So, Svelte Sirens is a Svelte society for women, non binary people, and we say allies. So, if you are friends welcoming to those type of people, you follow our code of conduct, you're welcome at all of our events, you're welcome in our Discord. We shared the Svelte Discord. So, inside the Svelte Discord, underneath the community part, you will find Svelte Society. And under that, we have a Svelte Sirens chat where we hang out, and you can get there through, there's a link on svelte.dev.
Okay.
That's it's svelte.dev/chat will take you straight to the
Ah,
Discord.
okay. I will do that. Svelte.dev/chat. Okay.
Yes. And hopefully that will work.
Yes.
And so, Svelte Sirens, we do a monthly talk where we have a guest speaker come on and they do a formal kind of meetup talk where it's pre-recorded video content and Q&A after. I have been doing live streams every 2 weeks where I bring on a guest similar to this stream, how we sit down and we integrate some new technology with SvelteKit.
Where can folks find those streams?
So those streams are both actually the talks and the streams are available on the Svelte Society YouTube channel. So you could get there if you wanted to go to events or talks on our route. We show the talks
Hmm.
are listed there, and that will take you to the YouTube channel if you click through to.
Yep. I probably won't because that might start blaring, perhaps.
Oh
Oh.
yeah.
Uh. Okay, it won't. But yeah. Okay, gotcha. Cool. So go check out those videos. Go check out Brittney's streams. Um, Brittney, it's been wonderful having you on. Thank you so much for being my introduction to Svelte. I really do appreciate that.
Awesome. Yeah. If anybody has questions, reach out. I mean, my DMs are open. I'm around on Discord all the time. So if you have questions about stuff, I'd love to help you or point you in the right direction of someone that can help you.
All right. Um, yeah, so this has been Semantics. We've had Brittney on. Stick around, chat. We're going to find someone to raid. Also, if you're following people on Twitter, you might as well follow Semantics on Twitter. After all, that's where all the best updates are. Recordings of the stream go there. Announcements of upcoming streams go there. Go follow and get those updates. And y'all just have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. Thank you so much
Thanks,
for being here.
everyone.
Bye, y'all.
See ya.